Hello, I hope you are doing well. Let's dive into the story. Enid had proposed to Glunn to stay at his place, but Glunn was contemplating. At his place? I knew it. It's a trap. He's trying to lure me into his house. Seeing him not answering anything, Enid explained, well, I have to come back here tomorrow anyway to collect my bounty. So if you are planning to meet your people here, I can bring you back tomorrow. But Glunn was thinking of another thing. If he actually a top-class alchemist, then this might be a chance for him to win his trust. So he asked, I saw you carrying a gold card. Does that mean you're a top-tier alchemist? Enid laughed softly. Oh, you noticed. That's right. I am. But Glunn had more doubt, so he probed. I've heard that there aren't many top-tier alchemists. You must be pretty good at what you do. It was very obvious that the boy was probing, but Enid was genuine. Well, yeah, I guess so. There aren't too many of us. I didn't know you were interested. So he rummaged in his pocket. Want to see? Here. And then he handed him the golden card. The boy examined it thoroughly. This is definitely the work of a professional. This looks just like the real one. Oh boy, that's real, you know. Anyway, he returned it back to Enid, a top-tier alchemist with a commoner background. That must have been some news. Enid replied, well, no, it was quiet as ever. Then he put the card in his pocket. The association doesn't approve of commoners making the headlines, but they did spread rumors about me around the time of my graduation. Glunn could understand it. That must have been tough. Enid put his bag on his shoulder while replying, well, what can I do? I just don't care about it all now. After analyzing the pros and cons, Glunn decided to give it a chance. It doesn't seem like a bad idea to fall into the trap. Just this once. However, if I fail to convince him and he attempts to kill me instead, then I'll have no choice but to make the call. Enid looked at the boy, all silent without making any decision. After a while, Glunn answered, we did too much talking. I'll stay at your place for the night, as you suggested. Lead the way. Look at this boy's attitude. Anyway, Enid returns to his home with the boy named Glunn. But inside the house was very messy. Enid was a bit embarrassed. The place is a little messy, isn't it? I was so busy I didn't have time to clean up. Then he started sorting it all out hurriedly. I'm sorry, but can you give me a minute to clean up? Glunn replied calmly, despite Enid's embarrassment. Don't mind me, just get it cleaned. While Enid was busy, Glunn's eyes got attracted to the certificate hanging on the wall. Certificate on the wall, nice one. Paid attention to detail. If only I were taller, I could see it closely. That's a shame. But then he noticed that the year printed on it was 6 years ago. So he asked, did you graduate from the National Academy 6 years ago? Enid replied while doing his work. Yeah, I did. It's been that long already. After asking too many questions, it turned out that Enid was only 25 years old, which elevated the doubt Glunn was having. He graduated the academy at the age of 19? Glunn was very surprised, so he probed in a roundabout way that he had heard that the tuition at the academy was a significant burden to a commoner household. Enid was searching for the potion. Hearing it, he replied that it was correct, and where did he hear all this stuff? That was why he had to get a full-time scholarship. After gathering all the information, Glunn was even more sure in his hypothesis that this man was a clown, and he didn't know anything about the National Academy. The National Academy of the Kingdom of Chelsea, known for its rigorous academic standards. Even money and connection can't buy you the certificate. The only way to graduate is to earn it yourself. The average age of graduates is 30, give or take a few years. And here he was talking about graduating from the academy with a full scholarship at the age of 19. It might happen in a fairy tale. It was totally nonsense. Glunn scoffed at him that he was calling himself a genius. But Enid didn't get the sarcasm and grinned at him, telling that he didn't want to sound like a show-off, but some people call him that. Glunn was embarrassed hearing it because Enid had heard it as a compliment, but he was not going to back down from it. He started talking like it seemed strange because it was normal for noble houses or even royals to employ him if he graduated with such honor as he had said, but why he was stuck in a remote countryside. Hearing it, Enid paused. He was silent for a moment, but then softly replied that it wouldn't always work like that. Some people choose different paths, and Enid was one of them. He had talked to the principal of the academy, and he knew how good he was. But why didn't he even get an offer? At that time, the dean had clearly stated that he was just a commoner, with no family and even a patron. So he should accept his reality and know where he belongs. He even sternly told him that who would ever want to hire him? It was a very shocking and heart-wrenching moment for the teenager Enid. But he couldn't tell these things to a mere 10-year-old boy, so he simply chuckled and told him that he liked experimenting on his own. Besides, he preferred quiet places rather than crowded cities. And then he hurried Glunn that it was getting late and he should go to bed now. But Glunn was silently watching him and observing him. Then he suddenly stepped towards him and asked for a favor and showed his hands that he had hurt his fingers a little. He blamed those slave merchants for it. Enid panicked as he saw how swollen it was. He was even worried that it must have hurt. Did he drag that man with those hands? And what kind of kid held on to pain like that? Seeing him worried, Glunn felt a pang of guilt, but he continued his act and asked for some potion if it could be used. He would very much appreciate it. Enid instantly got the potion and applied it to the fingers. Glunn sat on the bed and asked if the potion had a good healing effect. Enid replied in affirmation and told him not to worry about anything because it was the highest grade and was only supplied to temples. Well, anyway, Glunn told him that he would see how good it was. Now was the time for him to get some sleep. He was tired. Enid wished him a good sleep and shut the door. But one thing was for sure, he was definitely not a normal kid. Enid had brought him to the house so that he could figure him out, but it seemed like he was the one who figured God out. Well, he could only wait. And then he went to check his potions, whether it actually succeeded in showing a fraction of the future. On the other hand, the boy was not sleeping at all. He was thinking of Enid that he couldn't understand. He definitely had holes in his story, but he didn't seem to be lying. He had even exposed his weakness on purpose, but it didn't trigger any response. He was planning to expose himself first, then convince him. He was contemplating if he should wait for a little longer. On here, Enid sighed. He checked the future with the potion, but the sight made him shocked to the core. It was a bloody mess. His hand was trembling. All his potion bottles were broken, and the blood stain could be seen. Enid was horrified. He had not imagined his future to be like this. Please stay tuned, like and subscribe for more. See you guys in the next video. Have a good day ahead. Bye.